Good morning. Now, those of you that saw my last photography video will know that I was trialing a new exercise where you shoot your digital photos with the same restrictions as if you were shooting film photos with an old-fashioned film camera. And in that I stated that it was probably the best photo exercise I ever did, which is still true, because recently myself and Emily went on the mini road trip around the Aberdeenshire coast, and I used that photography exercise every day of the trip. And we're gonna get into why, the little tweaks and amendments I made to the exercise, and also I'm gonna show you my favorite photos from the trip. So for those of you that aren't aware of the rules with this exercise, shooting digital like film, first one is you can only take a maximum of 36 photos. Old rules of film used to have only 36 shots, so that's one of the rules. You are only allowed to use single shutter mode, so you can't use burst mode or multiple exposure or any of that. You can only use single shot. You can only use the viewfinder, so no using the LCD screen, none of that. It has to be full manual mode, so no aperture priority, shutter speed priority, automatic. It must be fully manual. And an optional one is you are not allowed to look at the photos after you take them. You have to wait at least an hour. That one I'm not such a fan of, that last rule. That was really the only amendment I made to this challenge when I was on holiday, was that I looked at the photos after I'd taken them. As we're only allowed to take 36 images in total, I wasn't going to do 36 images in total from our holiday. We were traveling for 5 days. I didn't really want to take 36 over the span of 5 days and many hours. So instead, what I did was it was going to be 36 shots maximum from each day. Now on the first day, I managed to get 35 shots, and then I got something like 19 shots, 20, 19, and then on the final day I was up at like 31, 32. Okay, so enough rambling about photo settings and exercises and stuff. Let's get into my favourite photos from the holiday. So the first place I visited was Delgaty Castle. Now Delgaty Castle was terrible and boring. It was not a great start to the holiday for the first place to visit. The castle itself, it was just not that impressive, and it was a ludicrous amount to enter. But the most interesting thing about that area wasn't actually the castle itself. It was this little hut that was at the bottom of the steps that lead up to the castle. You had the house itself, and then you had this little like water mill type thing, which connected to a river and connected to a garden and a little hut. So this was quite nice. It was much nicer than the castle. It was much more impressive than the castle. It was just prettier and better kept than the castle itself. Next on the list was Fyvie Castle, which is another castle. They do go on about their ghost tours quite a lot, and every room inside the castle seems to have some form of ghost or another. Didn't take many photos. Got this stereotypical one of the castle from the front lawn, looking up at it. Quite nice. That's really all I got from there. However, the final place we visited on this day was Newborough Beach. Unfortunately, no seals around. However, I did take a couple of minimalist photos, I think you'll call them. The weather was perfect in the evening. You know, I basically had my settings on the same thing at all times because it was not changing. The lighting was not perfect, not golden hour perfect, but it was good enough for the time of day that it was. And then two more from the Newborough Beach was one that is very similar. I've taken photos like this quite a lot of time. I think I've done them at Cullen, and I've done them at Portsoy, and I've done them elsewhere, where you've got the life ring and you've got other signs either side, and you've got the background, the dunes and stuff. I don't know, I just like these photos, especially when it's like equal or more or less level. And then of course one that replicates one that I took at Portsoy. At Portsoy I took one of the Scout Hut. In a similar style, just slightly further away, I got one of this golf club hut building, very impressive, and of course the road leading up to it. So that was from day one from our trip. Those are my favourite photos from then. All of them I've found are nicely framed, even the minimalist ones, which are probably the easiest to frame, and the larger ones, such as the last one of the golf club. All of them would look much better at sunrise or sunset, but we weren't hanging around that long. On to the second day of the holiday, much less photos, only 19 shots from this whole day, mainly because it chucked it down for the majority of the afternoon. We started off at a nature reserve, going for a nice walk. I seem to be obsessed with this group of houses that were just beyond the nature reserve. I got a couple of shots of those, and again was looking Like the previous day and like I have done in so many photos before, there's definitely a pattern developing of framing things in the lower third and then having a nice clear sky in the top, which I did with another house. My favourite shot from the nature reserve is actually one that was like a very quick shot, which is of Emily standing, looking out to sea and looking at a helicopter that's just gone past. It's not like the best framed, it's not the best composition, it's not the best lighting, which makes it sound terrible. However, for a shot that was quite literally, oh, there's a helicopter, this would make a nice shot, click. It's not too bad, to be honest. After that we went to a couple of other ruins. We went to 2 ruins. One was Old Slains Castle, which is down the bottom of this really dodgy one-way track which goes onto the cliffs basically. A very interesting aspect was just this ruined house that was next to it. The ruined house was a bit more enticing for photography rather than the actual castle. And finally New Slains Castle, which was an inspiration for Dracula. It was chucking it down when we visited. My best shot of New Slains Castle was actually from day 3, and we started off doing a walk that was actually just down from the New Slains Castle. And as we were walking along there, I noticed that the castle was in the background. So my favourite shot from this walk was the one of, as you're seeing, I'm just explaining it because why not. You've got the castle level on probably the top third, and then you've got the coast weaving its way down towards the bottom third of the camera. Really like that. Definitely think it's going to be better if it was taken at sunset or sunrise. I'm probably going to go back at some stupid hour of the morning or night at some point and get that, because I think it would look perfect with a little bit of golden hour on it. Next on the list was another nature reserve, another nature walk RSPB site. Very nice. Beautiful weather. A lot of it was shut off because there's been a lot of landslides. My favourite one from here is probably an old school one of a very close-up sign saying danger of death, danger of falling. And then you can literally see the landslide in the background. Very similar to a lot of my old photos I take, but I actually like that one quite a lot. The only one that would maybe be on the same level as this for my favourite is the old random ruin that was on this little island that we saw no way of getting to. So that was quite interesting, mainly because it was quite intriguing. What was the building? Like, why is it there? How did they get to it? Probably more of a storage than a house, but we can't seem to find any information on it. On day 4, we visited some more nature reserves, did some more walks to start off the morning, and then we went to the Lighthouse Museum. Quite interesting about the history of it, to be honest. However, the buildings there, the yellow and white buildings, were very photographic, and of course they contrasted with the blue sky. So I got a photo, again similar to ones I've already taken, with the building taking up the majority of the lower third and maybe part of the middle third frame. My second favourite from the lighthouse was actually of the 2 lighthouses and the Seafish chip shop, which is in the foreground of it. Don't know why, I just like it. It's a scene. If there had been someone walking through the frame, maybe out of the fish shop, I think that would have added a bit more character to it, but it's alright as it is. I'm not going to try and Photoshop someone into it. On day 5, started off the morning by struggling to figure out which composition I liked best of the rolling hills and like the telegraph pole in the back, a telephone transmitter. 3 different compositions with the church and with the transmitter and the fields. All of them were actually really good, and I don't know which one is my favourite. I just know that those 3 I like composition wise, leading line wise, just everything about it. Again, as I say with everything, Golden Hour could have made it a bit better. Later on in the day, after a couple of walks and a late breakfast, we went to Troop Head, which is a nature reserve famous for its gannet colonies and seabirds. One photo here, very pleased of. No fast shutter, I'm sticking with the film rules. I was tracking this gannet for about 10 minutes and finally got the perfect shot of it, exactly where I wanted it in the frame. So very happy with that. Later on in the day we went to a village which is apparently one of the prettiest villages in Scotland. Got a couple of photos, I think they're traditional photos from a viewpoint. And then finished at Tarlair Swimming Pool, which is usually a very photogenic area. The only downside is the council have decided to renovate it. So it is covered in machinery and fencing and stuff. So not as photogenic as it usually is, but I got an alright shot of it. Now I still stand by what I said in the last video and so far in this one, that this exercise, shooting your modern day camera, shooting your modern day digital photos like you would with a old-fashioned film camera, is definitely going to improve your skills and is definitely going to help you find your style a bit more. When I started off photography, I was doing mainly sports stuff, which is why a lot of it was just high shutter speed. When I started doing like landscapes and portraits, it would just be shutter speed. Disregard light or anything like that and just burst mode. However, with this exercise, especially with the action shot of the gannet flying through the air, I had to take my time, I had to track it and be patient, which I'm not really good at. So just using this exercise in the last video on the 5 days of my holiday and a couple of other walks I've been on definitely helped my skills, definitely helped me find my eye for photography and different subjects. So let me know which photo you thought was the best out of the ones you've seen in this video. Let me know what you think of the exercise. If you've not already tried it, then go and try it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the photos. If you've not seen Falling Thrice yet, go and watch my most recent film. I will link it around here. And I will see you next time.